5 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Please stand for the allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I will turn it over to John.
All right, welcome back, Madam Chairman. Good to see you. So, what I'm going to do, with the agreement of the chair, I'm just going to continue going through the smaller budgets just to get totally through the whole list. So, on this particular one, I'm looking at Department 116, page 28, Finance Department. Let me find it for myself.
Which is page 16 in the new one that's in the row.
ABC.
This doesn't have changes.
Mine still says 28.
See, the trouble is,
I know. Which the new ones?
the difficulty is if you're doing updates and you're just printing one page out of 3, sometimes they don't number, and that's what you're finding.
What page are we looking for?
I'm looking at page 25. This should be one page.
The draft one?
Is this finance?
It should be dated mine's dated 3/20. What's yours?
Mine's 312.
I have 312.
Mine's page 27.
We've all got a new one tonight that doesn't have the detail of everything, because that is still in the other one that you have.
Okay, so now it's page 17.
17, yes. And the one that was handed out tonight is page 17.
17?
We found that you guys are having trouble shuffling the new
When
ones
did you
in.
hand it out?
Just now, it's right there in front of you. John, it's right there in
here.
front of you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Page
fine.
17 is the new.
All right.
And
Page 17, contractual services.
it's on the
Where's the one I gave you tonight?
with the clip.
I probably haven't gotten it in yet.
No.
This is a lot of work here.
That's why I didn't ask you to put it in. Look at page 17, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and total on that is the newest total. On this. Somebody's stolen my phone. Okay, and the total on that is, total on that is 223,261.
Yes.
Which is a little bit less. It's a little bit less than what you saw last time around. You reduce the overtime, which would be line 1010, and you reduce the
Contracted services.
contract,
Contracted services,
and that was
1,500.
yeah, that was pretty much it, apart from the dental. We're anticipating a rate increase which didn't happen. So that'd be line 4007, and down from last year, 3,200 down to 2,036 for reduction. So basically, the total that you see is 223,621. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the board? From the budget committee? Good. Right, thank you for that. And my next one would be general assistance, which should be page. Should be page
18 in the handout tonight.
General assistance, which, my recollection was totally unchanged. 25,071, last year 25,071 this year. So, any questions on that?
Yes,
Yes.
if I can get my head adjusted here.
Well, that's all it takes.
Pardon?
That's all it takes.
Just a minute.
We're good. Better than the rest of us. So that's your new page.
There were several that went down quite a bit. Is that because there's not a demand, a need? There has to be a need.
Some of the department heads went back and back and back and managed with Bernice's encouragement and my encouragement to
Crack the whip.
reconfigure a bit. And there'll be some that are up quite a bit as you, when you start looking at the totals, you'll know.
But, so you're cracking the whip on general assistance?
No, that one's the same.
Oh,
It's the same budget.
no, but I meant some of, I thought we were on general assistance.
We are. It was the same
Which
budget.
one?
as
Same
it
budget
was.
as last year, and in fact, year to date, only 11,042 has been spent out of the budget of 25,000. So that's a sign that the numbers are comfortable. Now, if I treated general assistance like the other departments, I'd have probably knocked 5,000 out of that.
But the demand is lower.
But you never know. It
I
could
know
be
that,
higher.
yeah.
That's why we're leaving it the
Well, I'm
same.
just curious if you know why there's not as many requests.
Kathy's the one that does all that, because that's her. I know there are requests, but I see them going in there. And some, there are different sources. I mean, if you want detail, I can have Kathy come in. She needs to be around.
Well, I know that the Help Yourself Shelf and the other food pantry,
Mhm.
is that still running? It is?
So far as I know.
Okay. And Feed Our Scholars has to help.
Yes. Yes, Bob.
Two things. I was gonna, before the meeting started, I was just gonna say, I would like to thank Judy Flanagan.
Excuse me, Bob, Sandy's here. Maybe she can answer, if you don't mind, if she can answer Judy's question. Do you mind?
Has there been a reduction in the requests for assistance?
General assistance, yes, it's been less clients than previous
Do
years.
you know? Because,
Well, they have the Lincoln County Community Energy Fund, so typically if a client is over general assistance income and is out of oil, I make a referral to them because they can take that a little more, they can take that as a referral. But if they're, otherwise, if we didn't have that fund, then, even if they were over income, if they were out of oil, we would have to constitute an emergency and provide assistance to them, in a lot of the cases, especially with small children and
so
elderly.
that is,
Yep, so the Community Energy Fund is a huge help to the town. Okay?
thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm sorry, Bob.
No, that's all right. I didn't know that anybody noted, but I wanted to thank Judy for bringing the snacks. She wasn't here, but she brought snacks at the last meeting,
I
and
did tonight.
and that's okay.
That's okay.
But getting back to this, the heating oil line just kind of sticks out. 5,600, we don't have to use 600. The heating season's over. That seems kind of high. And nobody wants to prevent anybody from getting what they qualify for. But if we cut this a lot closer to the bone, we're also allowed by law that we're drafted. So why do we raise money that we probably aren't going to use when we really are covered anyway?
Very good question.
We do get reimbursed at a 50%.
So, no, 70%, all GA is reimbursed by the state at 70%, so any money you spend, you get back at 70%.
7%.
70.
70%.
70.
Used to
Yep.
be 50.
Okay, well, 70 is good.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay, next, with municipal building should be page 19. Page 19 will be different from what I've got. Okay. Anybody got the municipal building? What you last looked at, just so you know, the total was 78,929, so this is up just a few $100. You can see something. So that's it's page 19, it's Department 118. And you can see the heating oil is up based on based on usage. And the sewer line, we're estimating an increase in rates of 30% rate for these.
That's what we've been working on, yes.
Yeah. And so that is reflected in other departments going through. Let's see, workers' comp is out of this budget. And beyond that, you've got a reduction in equipment maintenance and repair from $1,500 to $1,000. That's line 6003. And slight increase in retirement costs. That's just a function of wages and which benefit package the individuals have taken. And so that's now a 9.4% increase in that department. Do you have anything to add, Bernice?
Not for municipal government.
Why did you go up to 20,000 on buildings, 6001? Went from 1770 to that 20,000.
Still have an oversight.
We're talking the floors and.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not sure, I have to go through all the material, as you know.
Okay.
Anyway,
Mhm.
and so some of it we may be able to get it done this year, this budget.
Okay.
Some of it was budgeted for this
Yeah,
year,
and
so
some-
it's probably not gonna be completed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does 1002 full-time, does that mean full-time, part-time? Because that's a part-time position,
But
right?
the person that's holding it has a full-time position between the 3 different departments that he works for, is why they call it that way.
So, what is he?
It's for Steve, and he works for
Yeah,
cemetery, the municipal building, and the highway. So he's still a full-time employee, is why they call it that.
Which reason it has to be identified like that is, you put some of his benefits in there too, right? So they were
Yes.
prorated on it based on his hours.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, any more questions? After municipal buildings, we have municipal insurance. And, let's see. The big jump is in the workers' comp and stuff in municipal insurance, right? Right, Bernice?
And property and casualty.
And short of shopping around every year for different insurance plans, we just accept a rate increase, and most of it is through main municipal, except for the workers' comp isn't through main municipal, right? Bernice?
Yes, it is.
It is? Oh, anyway, so the big change, and that would be page 20, big increases that the workers' comp is now transported from the individual departments to this one line, municipal insurance.
And there was a big increase, and it was a 16% increase in it overall anyway.
Any questions from the board? So, let's see, overlays and abatements, that's your new page 21.
That would be a mention of the tax commitment when it's done.
And just in case anybody is not familiar with the concept, the overlay is the extra amount that a municipality or other government entity will budget in case people aren't paying the taxes or there's costs, right?
It's voted at this town, like most towns, to cover abatements for errors or omissions.
So that's the overlay.
So the overlay last year was 98,854.
I just threw the 20,000 in there. As you know, you can only go 5% over the commitment amount.
Yeah.
And you folks usually go on the lower side of that 5% to round up or down the mill rate. So if it comes out to be 19.46, you may round it up to 19.5.
Well, okay, but I'm asking
That's what it was last year, yes, it was 19,845. And year to date, we spent 14,827. Last year, we overspent the overlay.
take it as an update in here then somewhere.
But it's not a variance, Any other questions on the board? Budget committee?
So this one's out.
You tell me how I could have missed it.
I'm not.
Well, no, I'm just saying that I know it's gonna miss it, but I don't know how else to do it.
No, I don't think it's late enough, because at 6:59, it was at 6.
Okay, that's fine. Any questions? So now looking at this Department 125, Public Utilities, page 27 on the newest listing, and I don't think that changed. I don't think that changed from what you saw. That's totally unchanged from what you saw last time. And as you can see, public utilities, we've got streetlights, stoplights, and then the hydrants, the hydrant rental. And that's, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept there. Basically, your hydrant rental is a certain percentage of your total water revenues. It just gets assessed based on that formula.
It's the hydrant. Is that depend on the usage? I thought we paid a regular amount.
You do. Yeah, there's a formula, it's a percentage of the revenue of the whole system. And it's kind of unforgiving, short of going to and arguing. There's no way to go with that.
I'm curious, why did they get cut? Oh, no.
They did get cut a little bit based on what we're paying this year on all the water to see if there's gonna be any changes, and they said no. So based on what we will be paying this year, I looked at what we should be paying next year. We budgeted a little bit more than that this year.
Any more questions on that? The board? All right. Next is the appropriation from the school, and it's about the same as last year, well, we know. And so beyond that, it's a good okay. Any questions? No questions. Next item, Department 129 is the Senior Center, page 32.
John, could I just point out, based on the budget meeting last night, for the school appropriation, she has cut quite a lot, and so they're under 6 million,
Good?
just barely, but,
Fairly?
yeah, so that'll be a cut.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so then we asked them for adult ed, since I see that they carried forward adult ed.
I haven't seen that level of detail.
Okay. Senior Center, as I said, Department 129, your new page 32. And the biggest change there is the personnel, increase the part-time cook, increase the hours. So you can see it's an increase of $1,200. And the expenses related to FICA and Medicare, again, are totally driven by the salary line. And services,
They're proposing 30 meals this year instead of 24.
I'm sorry, say it again?
They're proposing 30 meals this year versus the 24 meals that they've been doing.
Yes, Bob.
That doesn't seem like a lot of extra meals, and it triples the salary.
Again, if you see what we spent year to date, we didn't budget enough for what we had for this year. Year to date, we've spent $948.50, and they've still got meals for 3 more months. And minimum wage went up about an hour.
I think the meals are going up in price next year.
I think.
Yeah. And just a little advertisement, the meals are delicious. Wednesdays, the second Wednesday, whatever Wednesday. They're delicious.
I know they cook
And
right there
then,
now.
if you belong to the seniors, it's $8 right now for soup, salad, and meal and dessert.
So is this something the budget committee and selectmen should do a quarterly review?
Yes,
You think so?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't even think you have to be 50 to go.
No, you
Don't
don't.
worry about
It's
that.
a public,
It's a public.
which includes those
Everybody,
below
right?
50.
Yeah, not being
And
smart.
it's good, isn't it, Catherine?
Yes, it is.
Judy, where are they adding the 6 extra meals?
You're doing like 3 Wednesdays or something, isn't that what I heard? Or you're increasing, going to 3 meals a
I
month or
don't
something?
know.
I don't know, you're increasing the number of meals. Now it's 2 per month,
Yeah.
and now they're going to go to one additional. And how
Maybe
they're
more in the
scheduling
summer.
it, I don't know. More in the summer.
I would think more in the summer where they have other people here instead of the winter.
Could be.
Bob, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna make a comment. I never thought that we should subsidize this, just when there's restaurants that pay taxes that are competing against this. It lets them offer it maybe for $1 less, but, you know, you could just go to your neighborhood restaurant and just pay for it and support it.
The,
Yes, Judy.
do you remember the Lincoln Club?
Oh, well.
See, that's why we subsidize it. What is it?
That's
Yes.
a poor reason.
Well, it is part of our history with the senior center.
I do restaurant pay, whatever.
Does the budget committee have any questions?
Next one is Department 130, Shellfish Conservation on page 33. It should be right on to the next one. And it's almost identical to the previous year. It's off 70, or it's down $72. And that's, there's nothing exceptional there. When you look at the total budget for last year, year to date, we're at 800 as opposed to 6,000, and looking for slightly less going forward.
Question?
Yes.
I know there has been discussion over the years about going up on these fees. Has the board
No,
changed?
we haven't taken that up yet, no.
Yeah, we will.
We will be, but we haven't.
Mike, if I could make a comment, you
Go
know,
ahead.
there's a handful of people that benefit from this, and they should either sell more licenses to raise enough money to balance it, or go up on the ones they got. There's no reason why everybody should have to, I mean, nobody buys me a shovel if I want to dig dirt. I mean, why do we have to subsidize just this handful of people?
It's law enforcement.
Hmm?
It's law enforcement, correct?
I don't care what it is, we're
No, I don't think-
subsidizing a handful of people.
I don't think that's law enforcement, not shellfish.
Shellfish warden is still law enforcement, isn't it? Chief?
Yeah. But most of the shellfish, I was talking to Deputy Reed, or Officer Reed, and he said most of the stuff he deals with shellfish is worm diggers. So I'm not real familiar with the whole shellfish. I know it falls under the police department, but I think the major issue there is the worm diggers, so. But I don't know what, I think they buy seedlings like that.
I was gonna say, it's got something to do with the clams and
Yeah.
seedlings and
Yeah.
all of that.
Well, they give up that, raising the sea clams, you know.
They were talking about buying sea clams at the last meeting I attended. Now that's been at least a year ago. But they also do, I think part of what they do is like environmental, you know, because they maintain the mud flats, make sure they're safe. And I don't know if there were people from Chewonki that were there at the meeting. I don't think it just benefits a handful, it may be direct benefits a handful of people, but overall, maintenance of mud flats.
And keeping your
keeping your residents on your mud flats. They would pick up anybody that's not a resident digging on your mud flats and depleting your sources there.
That's what
I
I
think you're
remember
missing the
from
point.
last
I'm talking about the whole picture here, where we spend this money and a handful of people are allowed to go dig clams. They're the only ones that benefit from it. I'm not saying the board benefits from getting paid, that's not what I was talking about. There's just a handful of people that would have a license to dig clams, and we pay this money so that those few people can dig clams.
Those people can dig clams if they have a shellfish board or not. We're protecting the clam flats, like Kim said, keeping poachers off them, keeping non-residents from going on them. Am I
Keeping
correct?
them productive as well. I think that there's-
I'm sorry, you're just missing the point. I'm not talking about the warden.
Okay, but
Well, that's
what's
what the
the deal
biggest
with
part
rec-
of the pay.
what is it in regards to recreational digging? Does one have to have a license for that?
You have to buy a recreational license, yeah.
But you can dig quite a bit.
A peck, their peck license,
How long?
Yeah.
every day. But you can't sell them.
No, that's not where I'm going, just
Okay.
regulate, how often do you have to get those, is it for the whole season?
For resident ones, I believe it is.
And you could use it every day?
Just, I'm sorry.
Catherine?
I think the person we should get a hold of, or John could, to explain all of this stuff is Richard Forrest. He's been involved with shellfish conservation for over 20 years. And I think he's also a member of the waterfront committee, but he's a wealth of knowledge and he can tell you exactly what they do with
Well, my whole point
conservation,
is, I think
seeding
it
the
does
claims.
benefit everybody.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it is a little more than just,
Yeah, I mean, it keeps the claim plots posted, if there's closures, so that people aren't digging in places that have bacteria and pollution.
Is this something the board would be interested in, having Dick Forrest come before us? or-
It'd be a waste of time.
yeah, no, I was thinking John could perhaps get some information from him.
Yeah, we'll just get a copy of the job description, but the revenues related to the licenses run about $2,700. So that's about half of the cost. So, no, I understand what Mr. Wagner is saying, totally.
And Chief, does the budget committee have any questions?
Next is Department 131, tax increment financing, and that is page 34. And that should be exactly the same as you had in the last packet. You have to use just 34.
John, how many years are left on that?
Good question. I think it's marked here.
Which way on?
TIF.
TIF. I'll look at my.
I don't really know. I'm not looked at it to see.
Sorry?
I haven't looked at it to see when it expires.
No, it doesn't. I don't have anything in my notes. I don't
No,
know.
I have to ask a lawyer to look for the file to see when it was
It's
expired.
been running for 10 years anyway?
Yeah, I don't know how many years this is.
More than that, yeah, right
Those
now.
generally run
Then
15,
they
20
have two
years.
of them, but don't they, yeah, incentives?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look.
Yeah, because when they expanded, we gave them another tip.
With that figure of 261, that's all revenue coming into the town.
Directly, indirectly. And it's not the exact figure, that figure gets calculated when we commit the taxes. It gets transferred over to the TIP fund. And then we have to pay Rhinell back our portion of that.
It
And
can
then
only
we
be
keep the
used-
rest of it for economic development.
It can only be used for very limited purposes.
Correct.
There's a lot of people are huge fans of TIPs because sometimes it benefits a very successful operation. It's kind of, well, how many tax breaks do you get? I like that Apple trying to come into New York City. It's kind of too many breaks, so they put the job
Well,
away.
it convinced me, I don't think it's a good idea. We're in the middle of it.
In the middle, exactly. There's lots of them out there. Transfer station, Woodruff, waterfront, and harbors, that's page 37.
Waterfronts and harbors.
Waterfront and harbors, page 37. That's okay, I've got on here, I was looking at my original notes. Okay, that's pretty much the same as last year.
So you on waterfront?
Yeah, on the waterfront, page 37.
We pulled downtown Bathroom out of there, so it's close to
That is
what
separate.
prior year.
So I have a question about that. Are we gonna put the downtown bathroom as a second?
Keep going.
Keep going?
Waterfront.
It is as a second?
If you look at the cover sheet, it's the very last department.
29%.
We
Okay.
must have a new page then?
There is a new
Are we gonna
page.
talk about that later?
Yeah.
Yes, because
We're almost there, actually.
Okay.
A separate line, item. You've got a new page from the very second.
See it in the new page.
So,
Page 37.
any questions? Yes, Paul.
Are we anticipating this 30% increase in sewer fees?
Yes. And, you know, they are overdue,
We're busy.
and every time you have a meeting of any sort, Mr. Gage is here explaining how far behind we are. And ideally, the rates should be adjusted upwards year after year after year rather than leaving a gap. But if you recollect, between the consent decree, the cost of operation, and so on and so forth, that seems to be pretty much avoidable. Unavoidable. And if the board chooses not to go ahead with that, we'll have to either find additional revenues elsewhere or reduce that much.
But I'm not arguing with the logic.
Yes.
Were the same increases in other departments? I guess I missed that.
No. With the wastewater treatment department, they're supposed to be paying their own way. They're not really supposed to come to the general fund or the taxpayer.
No, I'm not arguing the logic. I just see that we are anticipating a 30% increase here, but I didn't think we did that in the other departments that you.
We did. We went through the municipal building and the Parks and Rec. We did that just this morning.
So you adjusted the other
We
one?
did adjust the other ones up to
Okay.
30%.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Thank you. No,
Yes,
good.
we did do that this morning.
Were the schools told about that 30%?
Well, the board hasn't actually approved
No,
it
we
yet.
haven't.
Well, no, but I mean, at this point, we're estimating in our budget, shouldn't they at least be aware of it? That's all I'm saying.
Well, this, we've discussed in general terms the need for a rate increase. And this is the first time where you've actually factored the budget you're looking at and still have to approve.
Well, then I can tell you here now, I'm not going to approve a 30% increase. I don't know what it will be, but it won't go with 30%.
No.
We've got to do some cutting someplace.
It's 30% on the sewer department.
Yes.
Okay.
So you've got your water from harbors. Effectively the same number, page 37. 44,777 last year, 44,909 this year, so it's pretty much flat.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I was talking.
I'm sorry, I'm talking waterfront and harbors. Your new page 37, it would be Department 133.
Yeah.
And the numbers between what was budgeted last year and what's been budgeted this year are pretty much the same. The expense year to date is 23,000. Of course, that'll surge as season, the building season, whatever gets going in the maintenance gets done. So, and just a general comment, there's a lot of maintenance around here that's running behind where it should be. And so, you pay now, you pay later, and you pay later, you're looking at the usual cost increases, so there's no easy way out. So any questions on waterfront and harbors? No? I'm sorry.
I just have a quick question. For years, the waterfront's been talking about adding a pumping station for visiting boats. And I don't know if it's ever made it to the budget stage, but where would it be if it's
They've talked about doing what, I'm sorry?
adding a pumping station?
A pumping station?
Yeah, to avoid pollution.
This is the first I've heard about it.
We actually got a grant for it.
You mean a pump out, and we had one, and yes, and it took a few years of discussion, but we had one, and it was put in down there. And last I knew, I think it was taken out because it didn't get the usage. You don't remember that?
No, I will take your word for
I don't
everything you said.
remember.
I absolutely remember being there. We used to pull that out along with the floats. It was there.
Oh, geez, and I was at the meeting and I can't remember what they said, but there was a problem and I have no idea what it was. Sorry, but yeah.
Joe's not in here.
Yeah, the alternative is that they figure people are just dumping into right into the river. I think that the reason they quit doing it was because people were pumping out sludge that was contaminated with like oil or gas and stuff like that, and then they couldn't dump it. There was some issue that it wasn't being used properly, and
Well, generally, that's the place where you need an attendant. You don't want people pumping out the whole campus.
We did have an attendant.
Well, yeah, that's true too. Yes, yeah, that's true. There was an attendant there.
Oh, there was. Richard, do you know if you've got a pump station, a seasonal pump station, or a pump?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I've never heard any discussion about it here.
Okay. All right. How long ago was this operation? Anybody?
I mean, I know about it, and I'm brand new here. I've only lived here for 2 years or something.
I'm sorry, Bob McDonald.
They do operate that. They had a problem with the mechanics of it, and I know they had to pull it last year because there was an issue with the tank, and I believe it had developed a leak, so they pulled it last year, but they were working on it to have it operational. So, last time.
Who pulled it, Bob?
Highway department.
The highway department, okay.
So Richard, you might talk to the highway department and see what kind of shape it is, and then back to the board as to whether you want to install it again. I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, all right. And Waterfront Harbors now. 134 is the comprehensive plan. We talked about getting that started. It's page 38. $20,000 is the number that's been discussed from the beginning. And
Where does it go here? Is that its own tab?
it's after Waterfront Park.
It's not a tab because it wasn't a separate one.
Where should I see it?
I put it under non-general fund. That's right.
That's a loaded question.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm a little punchy.
I put it in the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, so it all depends what stage the comprehensive plan gets to. There'll be a lot of introductory meetings, whether you want material, printed material ready, you want all your economics taken care of early on, whether you need facilities, exhibits, maps, whatever. So that was the number that was talked about.
And I think that number is there as a just in case, and it's not for a lot of administrative stuff, but it would be for in the case that a committee got to where they wanted to have, like, this is what I'm imagining, if we got to a place where we felt we needed, we may not even need to do this, where we needed to bring people from around the community, different people representing different groups, to discuss the direction for the town, then it would be to pay a professional, what do you call it, like a moderator. But I don't even know if we will need to do that, because we haven't started yet, we haven't read our comprehensive plan from the past, and there may not be a need for that.
I think it'll probably be 6 months before we'd expect to see a need for
And this-
outside guidance, whatever.
This number was a recommendation from Mary Ellen Barnes, and she said it was very modest, but you want to have something just in case, so you don't have to come before the select board.
Well, it can be expensive. The other thing is, once you get going, just get it done. Of course, you have to go back and forth with the state. You got to produce the material in the format they like, and then they'll pick it apart. The best thing to do is section by section, making sure they're okay with it and check it out as you go. Because ultimately, they have to approve it before it can be put in front of the board and ultimately be voted. And people say, what's the point of a comprehensive plan? Basically, it's the foundation document on which you base your ordinances and assigning priorities for the town and the different boards to follow. Because if you do end up in court for whatever reason, without the comprehensive plan, it's just a toss a coin as to what the outcome might be. So the comprehensive plan is supposed to reflect the town's vision, and it's supposed to reflect the support of the community. And once you've got that as a backstop, then that's your defense.
And I also understand that there are a lot of grant opportunities that you would be ineligible for if you don't
Right.
have
Very much
a
so.
comprehensive
Very much
plan.
Very much so.
And even aside from all that, wouldn't it be nice if we all knew what direction we wanted to go in terms of our downtown and our schools and our fire department and EMS and police? Like, some long-term planning, I think that would be a welcome addition.
Okay, no more questions? Okay. 135, Department of Downtown Bathrooms, page 39, and you'll see it includes, the first year includes the proposed cost of $21,000 plus operations, and the board wanted that to be as a single item on the budget, and so that's where it is. And I think most people have a fair idea of the costs and have their own opinions one way or the other. So that'll, unless the board changes its mind, that'll be an item on the line, an individual item.
Standalone. Yes, Bob?
Actually, a question for John. The 5,000 contracted, what is contracted?
We'll think about the cleaning. That'll be one of the things.
Someone to clean the bathrooms.
Well,
Right.
Booth Bay Harbor, they clean 3 times a day. They have to. And that gets pretty expensive.
So the 21,000 is a one-time.
That's the one-time thing. So subsequent years, based on experience, but subsequent years should be 21.
So $21,000 would buy bathrooms and install, run piping.
It's 38,000.
Yeah, and then 17,000 would be for going out more. What am I looking at here?
Okay.
And how many bathrooms?
17 for what, I'm sorry?
17 would be the operations of the bathrooms for the summer season.
17,000?
Yeah. Yeah, water, sewer, and maintenance, like I said, could end up cleaning 3 times a day.
The last time that bathrooms were discussed, I was under the impression that the 21,000 was for the building unit itself.
Yeah.
Where is the cost of installation of that?
I believe it's included, and of course the DOT will be doing some work down there.
It was discussed as if it wasn't included last time.
Yeah. Don't remember that exactly, I'm sorry. I'm not saying you're wrong, I just don't know.
Well, I would hate to see the town pay for it and then not be able, not to have money to install it. I think we need to know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll have to go to Augusta tomorrow, first time I might add. And I'll be talking to DOT about the project and all the rest of it, then I'll find out exactly what they really want to do. And then I'll figure it.
You'd be able to get better numbers at that point.
But that's where it is. Yes.
And just something that might be helpful for you to know when you are talking with DOT is that in the past, before the town decided to sue the DOT, I was at meetings where they actually talked about possibly including bathrooms. So a lot of those amenities got pulled back after the whole lawsuit.
Bathrooms were never in there, they said they would not pay for bathrooms.
Thank you.
At one point, I thought I heard Ernie talk about it in that
Never.
parking lot.
No.
Nope.
From the get-go of this project, we were told, the town was told, bathrooms, trash barrels, tables, chairs, all those little fancy things that you see on the drawing, that was the town's responsibility. MDOT made that
Would
very
pay
clear.
for the benches, the statement was, they pay for almost anything, but they definitely won't pay for bathrooms.
At one point, you know, I'm just listening, you know, second and third party, a lot of people talking about it. But at one point, there was one proposal that did include bathrooms.
It was in the new parking lot. This is before they even took the CEI building. It was very early. It was the first time I was running for select board, and so it's going back a couple of years. I definitely heard that.
That's something, you know, I'll be talking with the project team, and I'll do hopefully I can develop a decent relationship very quickly, because I've never met any of these people. And I'll see what I can get them to commit to.
What Kim is referring to is the Haggett building
Yeah.
parking lot. I thought I remembered that perhaps Ernie suggested that there would be room for bathrooms, but that would be a town responsibility.
Well, whatever you can do to sweeten the deal, that would be
You
That's
know-
all I'm saying.
You know me.
There once was a time when they were more minimal.
Yeah, so I've heard.
Yes, Judy.
Yes.
The only thing I think that the town manager would find out from the DOT about the bathrooms is when are they done, or if we are going ahead with it, the hookup, when is their construction done? The information for the bathrooms comes from our waterfront committee.
Well, I'm just going to assume at this point, and I think Bob could agree with me on this one, if you're gonna plan on putting bathrooms in there, we have to notify DOT because they have to import that into their construction down there.
Part of my concern was, I thought these bathrooms was proposed on the outboard side of the railroad tracks, and I'm not sure that there's sewer access there.
I thought it was right by Sarah's,
I
behind
don't know what it
Sarah's.
is.
I thought that's why they chose there. And I think Kim even mentioned maybe possibly putting them down on Railroad Avenue. I don't remember.
There was a proposal, and they waterfront committee came here, went through it, and that was before I was on the board, but I felt like they were on the docket of some sort of, it wasn't a regular, they weren't hard fund, it was some sort of season.
That's what I remember hearing, because
Yeah.
I remember my thought at the time was that, if you're gonna have bathrooms, flush bathrooms, you need to have access to sewer.
They had a plan for that, I know they talked about it, but maybe we should just get the original proposal and look at it.
I don't think that 21,000 would go very far if you had to, sleeve underneath the railroad tracks for sewer pipe.
No.
I haven't seen their plans. What I need to see is what they're gonna work from starting shortly, see what's there, see what's not there. And as I said, I haven't taken step one because they haven't been around. But it's their project team tomorrow afternoon.
Yes, Kim?
I mentioned this last week. I think you ought to take a look at the Scout Hall. It's a block off of Main Street. It's a level walk. People who might have a problem walking to the bathrooms that we already provide to our visitors because of the distance, they're gonna have to deal with the slope of walking down, back up that hill. At a time when we're looking at a 7% increase in our taxes, I just don't think this is the time to be putting this on the warrant.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I know, Mr. Blackman, you were the one that brought up the Scout Hall last meeting.
Yeah, and it wasn't the first time either.
I'm not familiar with the building. Anybody else?
Well, it used to be a fire station, and then when the town built this building, it was renovated, the doors was blocked off, and but at the time, Scouts were very, very active. There was a Boy Scout troop, very active Boy Scout leaders, and Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts. My daughter was in Girl Scouts, and they met down there. But over the years, it just seems like there's been less and less and less activity. In fact, at one point, one of the Scout leaders was subletting the building.
Yes.
And we found out about that, and that would kind of tell me that there wasn't much Scout activity there. And I think you probably could count the number of Scouts from Wisconsin on the fingers here with one hand, that they're probably integrating some from out of town to make it work. But I think our Boy Scouts are going somewhere else.
And our Girl Scouts meet
Maybe
at
find that
school.
in you.
I think the only one, at the last meeting, we learned just the Brownies use the building.
It just seems like a lot, and because I was involved with maintaining it, I know what it's electric heat. It's just.
I'd be curious to see what it would cost to be able to turn that into a facility to be able to use for bathrooms.
Well, I mean, if you seriously wanted to go that route, I think you probably would just push it over and build a bathroom. Well, the bathroom's in it too, I guess, if you want to go that way. But
There'd only probably be one, probably.
It's
So
very
I've never
old.
been inside.
Like,
Of course it is. That's what I'm saying. The whole
You couldn't
building.
use that as a public restroom the way it is right now.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, the building is old. It's.
It says stuff
Could we get, would anybody be interested in asking our Realtor to look at it and consider what it might bring for the town? If it's a building that we don't use and that we maintain, maybe somebody would move in and open up art gallery. We need more of those, or I don't know.
Sell
I'm just
antiques?
saying, like, I don't know why
I'm
we
sorry,
should.
sell antiques?
I can't find it. How much are we budgeting for the Scout Hall?
Scout Hall is on the municipal buildings.
It's buried in
Fixing the door for 1,500 or something.
it's buried in the highway.
Yeah, it's in the highway.
It's not a lot, but if you don't take care of it, it's gonna eventually fall down. And then,
Well, is that something the board would want to consider, selling it or tearing it down? Or?
maybe see if it's worth anything. And then decide. Somebody might love to buy it.
Yeah,
I'm not
I would
interested
explore
in
selling it
any
in
of
its
that.
entirety before I pushed it over.
Yeah. But sell it before it's at the point where it needs to be pushed over.
It's got a brand new roof on it. And the fire escape is in it.
Page 47.
Well, is that something the board is interested in going through and finding, getting hold of Sherry and Sherry Dunbar and get some figures or what?
Can do. I mean, if the board wants to do that, I would set it in motion.
Okay, we
And
can at least
do-
get a figure.
Well, it's broken out under the Public Works.
I'm fine with that, Judy. I think, courtesy, I would at least ask if you can find anybody that uses it, what the usage is.
Okay.
Didn't we have some numbers in that there, Bernice?
What's that?
Scout Hall under,
Those are only
It's under
repairs.
Public Works.
But I think, Bob, you're saying find out how much it is used at this point?
Well, I would like to know that before, I mean, I'm not arguing with just setting that in motion, which is what John said, but, if we do that, I would like to know what the usage is.
So we could do two things, find out what the usage is and also see if Sherry thought it would
Right.
bring in any funds.
One fuses without the other.
Right. Because I know 2 years ago, they used to bus the girls from the middle school down to Federal Street School. I don't want to call it middle, Federal Street School down to there. And they would get off and go down to the Scout Hall, the Brownies, or whatever they call them at that point. Yes, Jason?
Just a thought, why not sell it, not push it down, just put the bathrooms in it as it is. The quaint public bathroom. It's a historical building, it's next to the historical cemetery.
Firehouse bathrooms.
I don't see why we have nice bathrooms downtown. I don't see why we would spend any more money on public bathrooms.
Well,
I don't disagree with
You're
Ben,
all
my
countries
bathroom
down
down there
there.
right now is better than a lot. I said, I don't disagree with you, the bathrooms that are down there right now are better than a lot of places.
I think the reason the bathrooms are on here are because the Chamber of Commerce and the Waterfront Committee brought that, like they determined a need and then they brought it before us, and we are going to put it in front of the taxpayers to decide. But I would be opposed to making the Scout Hall into bathrooms, because then it's like, it's really not properly winterized, and it's, I don't know, I just think it would cost, it's a money pit, like it would take a lot of money.
Bob?
The biggest problem with the bathrooms at the waterfront is that they are not ADA compliant.
And you're right there. They are not.
And that was the biggest reason why there was a thought that we needed to try to find a different route for that.
Well, we've always had what? The last couple of years we've had porta potties down there. What was the issue with the porta potties?
High demand or complaints. I mean,
We added a couple because of the usage.
But I mean, what I'm saying is that with what we've got going here, once you get the bathrooms there, the expense that it's gonna cost us to maintain those bathrooms every year, would it be less to have more porta potties? Or what, you know? That's what I'm thinking. Yes, Judy, I can see it in your face.
Having been in the chamber booth down there over the summer, and there were times I certainly wouldn't use them. That's how bad they were. And when I was a child, we had an outhouse, so. But these sometimes, and I know last time we went around on this, talked about, well, all it takes is a call to get them clean. Well, people did call, and somehow it didn't always happen. And I would hate to see a parade of porta potties lining. I mean, what we had this year, you put one additional one down there. In fact, I think Bob got a call one time that it was full, and I don't know, and you said, get another one. Bring in another one.
Yeah.
And
people to come clean it.
but yeah, it's an ongoing issue, as all bathrooms are, and it's not welcoming. And I just think we should put our best foot forward with what we want our town to be, and I think I think these are high prices for what we have in front of us, and I doubt that will pass on the warrant, but I think maybe there are some adjustments we could make, and Dick Forrest is the man to talk to. And I know you have had a conversation with him, but
Sorry, who?
Dick Forrest.
Dick Forrest.
Oh, yes, I have.
Any other? Yes.
I just want to add, to the best of my recollection, I believe the Waterfront Committee has a plan drawn where the septic would go and hook into the town, and that they have that permit that doesn't have an expiration date.
True.
Yes, through the DEP, yes. Yes, we already have the permit. Any other questions?
Do we have to make the bathrooms we have ADA compliant?
You probably should.
Any new construction most certainly would have to be.
Are you talking new construction or the ones down on
The
the
ones
line?
that are there.
Can they be made ADA compliant?
You'd have to change doorways.
Because if I remember, you go in and go this way and that way, if I'm correct, in the ladies' room. It's been a while since I've been down there.
Yeah, you'd have to, you pretty much have to take walls down, knock a hole in for a new door. And then, even then, I'm not sure about the measurements. Is there a specific measurements as you guys know, what the doors here?
And aren't they, isn't that concrete?
Yep, it's all block.
It's all block. So it's not like taking down a wood wall.
No, unfortunately, no.
Are these bathrooms ADHD compliant?
I don't know.
Did you say ADHD?
Yeah.
Because I go in there all the
That comes
time.
from
I don't know if
education.
I have that.
Teachers coming out.
All the teachers are.
I don't believe so.
ADA,
I don't think they are.
Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I think there's a pill for ADHD.
Okay, any more questions regarding the bathrooms? Or comments?
I guess I just have one. Has anybody considered composting toilets like they use in the state park? There's no sewers as far as I know, and then you would actually have a sellable resource. They could possibly earn money. I'm not kidding, like this is a thing that, they do it in the state parks and they're very
They'll pollute the
nice.
milk though, then we'll be back.
What?
They're selling that sludge to the dairy farmers, it's polluting the milk.
I don't-
It is.
I
They
saw
have,
that.
yeah.
Just a thought, you know what I mean, like then you don't have the sewer and then they may not like see their wood and they don't have to be like a big cement block house, just a thought.
No, some people find them successful, but with the high volume.
There
of
might be
visitors,
another
high numbers of
solution
visitors.
besides the sort of old fashioned, like we have to flush this into a chemical treatment plant. There might be another way.
Okay, any more?
Water treatment.
Anything else? Okay, go on.
It's a
What-
natural biological activity that goes on.
That's what happens in the toilet.
Boy, you could have pulled it in your spare time. Anyway, so that's a run through of all the departments. What I'd like Bernice to do is talk a bit about the impact on the taxes.
Well, as I had mentioned before with the budget that was proposed, and we have made some cuts, as that's why you got a new budget today, but it's still a 7+%, unless we have some other revenues coming in that I don't know about, without taking anything out of fund balance, without taking anything out of reserves to offset taxes, it's a 7+% increase on the taxpayers.
And if you use all the income from the investment account, that would.
If we used all the money in the investment account, the 518,808 is what we've been told that is the 4.5% of the value at June 30 of 18 that our investment policy says that is recommended that we use.
What is that figure again?
518,808.
But some of that's committed.
It's been committed, yeah.
Well, like that pier debt, I mean.
You're right, I'm sorry, yes, the pier debt and the backhoe are committed, you're correct.
Yeah, I think it would be proper to probably subtract those out because that's kind of a.
Correct. There's 40,464 that gets taken out for the pier debt, and 22,237 that gets taken out for the backhoe. You're right, Bobby, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
So around the 450 mark,
Yeah.
450,000?
approximately.
All right, and how much do we need to take to say that zero?
I put it to stay at zero,
Just
more
nine?
than 500,000. I put the $500,000 in there, which it wouldn't really be 500,000. It would be like a 1.64% increase.
With the, say, the $450,000?
It would be two-ish. It would be about a 2% increase.
2% increase.
So how much do we need to cut to get rid of the 2%?
If you cut $500,000 out, you'll be at about a 1.64.
So if we use the 500,000 from the,
If you use the $500,000 from the reserves, which would actually be 50,
right, then you would have 2% roughly increase. If you wanted to get rid of the 2%, how
I
much is
have to
that?
figure out how much more you have to
Like
add.
100,000?
Yeah, it would be another,
Like 100, 200,000?
yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. I'd have to do the math to see exactly.
Not 21,000?
No,
But that would also be cutting out all capital improvement projects.
correct, unless, now, correct me if I'm wrong, we took $1 million out last year.
That's correct.
Was that the 4.5% that we were allowed because the investment value was more and our return was more? Or did we take more than the 4.5% that was allowed?
We took more than the 4.5%.
Because I did read through the policy and it said that the 4.5% is recommended, but the board has the discretion to take out more than that.
Correct.
So
You got a bunch of stuff done.
Yes.
Is there a big list for this year?
I handed out this other 3-page that I just handed out. The last thing I handed you was what we have for requests so far, which starting on page 1 of this, we've got the $40,464 for the pier gap. We've got the $22,237 for the backhoe. Those are musts that have to stay in there. We all, you got it all? It's 3 pages and it's stapled up in the top left-hand corner.
She can use that, I've seen it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then Ted has asked for $200,000 for roads, and that's specific to Cushman Point Road. The police capital, these are, I'm not gonna read them to you, but you can read them yourself. It's a total of $69,100, chief, because the $10,000 really wasn't there. The repeaters, I've put $1 in there because I haven't gotten back with TJ. That's something that he would like to have added. On page 2, anything that's a 0 or things that are still there basically because they were there from the year before and we're not asking for them again this year. Down the middle of the page, of page 2, under 329 Public Works plow truck, Ted's asking for another plow truck for $150,000 this year. And then we're down to the rec center capital. That's a total of $153,000, and you can see what each of those are. The radios is a combination between the fire and the EMS. Again, there's a $1 placeholder there because they have asked, but I haven't gotten a dollar amount. The municipal building floor rehab, we had talked earlier in the municipal budget that there was money in the current year for redoing the floors, and then we put money in there again this year, but that was just for this end of the building. As you all know, there needs to be replacement work of floors done in the EMS and fire department. So we don't have a number, again, it's $1 put in there for a placeholder. And that's it, so that totals $634,804, but again, that's with some numbers missing at this point in time, we're still waiting.
What percent is that of?
We are only supposed to take 518 in total,
If we stick to.
518,808 in total, which is the 4.5%. So we're already over that, and that's without all the requests coming in. Not to say that you folks are going to recommend all of them, but that's what's been proposed so far.
John?
Yeah.
I might have misunderstood, but I thought when we was in municipal building maintenance that with the increase on that line and perhaps money left over from last year, that was going to deal with the floors
I'm hoping it will.
in this building.
I'm hoping it will.
So it really would appear that we could probably cross that one off and still be safe.
Well,
That was just to replace the floors. Then we ran into the asbestos abatement issue, which is a whole different price tag. And from what I understood, when Marion was still here, they put out a request for bids to replace the floors in this end of the building. And the request that came in was more than we had budgeted.
I haven't really examined the floors. I've seen the numbers, but I haven't analyzed them. So I'm hoping that we can close the gap. Ideally totally, but I won't be spending any more than I have to.
Well, no, and I know you wouldn't. I want to make sure that we were on the same page with that.
Well, we went back and forth with the numbers in the different places, which is a building with four different users is kind of hard to allocate. And it's all a matter of when you stage which piece of equipment and which. The other part is, we have to move everything, assuming we have to move everything out. Be a horror show, but that's just something at some point we probably have to do. But I'm trying to manage the problem as much as I can, or I will manage the problem as much as I can. The other thing would be, some of this stuff, it's like the wastewater, some of this stuff has been sitting there for years, so might be possible to tap one of the reserves. I don't know which one, but if it has to be done, it's like a lot of things. It has to be done and gets delayed, then the stuff accumulates, and you have a moment, a day or a year of reckoning, or maybe 5 years of reckoning, just to bring you back to where you should be, what should have been your starting point. And that's one of the things, I'm not arguing about the numbers being very big, unpleasant, and so on and so forth. Not arguing that the taxpayers are stressed. I understand the dynamics within the community. But on the other hand, it's, I don't want to exaggerate and say biting the bullet, but at a certain point, reality has to, we have to face reality. And I understand the need on the board, and of course the voters will vote for certain things and grumble about the taxes. That's human nature. And as long as you can reduce taxes by tapping reserves, but you can't go above and beyond what you're replacing. Like your investment income.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't think we should be capping the reserves beyond the point that we was advised to. But what happens is, every time we hide the increased cost by doing something like that, it does roll back out after a year or two. And I feel like I've already bit the bullet pretty hard. 14% increase a couple of years ago, 20% in 3 years. And now Denise says another 7%, which, we can probably mitigate that down to nothing, but if we don't, then next year it's going to be that 7 plus whatever it is on top of that, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And every time we add a new person or a new toy, then that's something that has to be replaced again and again and again. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you talk about, well, we've got to do something about this, we've got to do something about this, but it's got to start somewhere. Somebody's got to just start cutting this stuff out.
Yeah, and the other thing is the revenues haven't kept pace with the spending, and so looking at fees and any place else, including the wastewater plant.
Yeah, well, John, we've had this discussion every single year when we've said here that these fees need to go up, but nobody ever does it. It'll be talked about next year. Everybody's going to do stuff to bring in more money, but just as soon as they leave this room, it never happens. And then you look at the budget the next year and it's like, oh geez, the revenue didn't match up, but yet the budgets are higher.
Well, I agree with Bob. I had quite a few days to really go through these numbers and really look at it. I'm going to give my personal opinion. I do not feel we need to be adding personnel at this time. The taxpayers, I think, are really at a hard time with what we have gone through in the last few months as a board in trying to get people to pay their back taxes. And now we want to get them with another 7%, even 2% some people can't afford. I don't want to sit here and go through each one of these departments and say, well, I'm going to take 20,000 out of this one, I'm going to take 5,000 out of this one. I would like to suggest that we as a board give a limit, 2%, 3%, 5% reduction across the board. Give it back to John and say, you make the cuts. You get us that number. And I've done some figuring. 2% would be about a $243,000 reduction. 3% would be about $405,000.
You go back up again, 2% is what?
About $243,000.
Yeah.
3% would be about 405,000. 5% would be 607,000. And that's before thinking of taking any money out of the investment or anything of that nature. I don't like the idea of using the investment to that point because we do have vehicles that are getting worn and are going to have to be replaced. We have roads that need to be fixed. And if we keep taking that max, we can't take care of our own needs, the building needs. So basically, in less than 10 years, we're going to drain that account, we're going to have nothing. That's my viewpoint, but I will tell you now, if this budget stands the way it is, I will vote no on every single article. Because I don't believe this is right for the taxpayers of Wiscasset. And I've said my piece. Thank you.
Well, let's get more specific. The first thing I would do is take out the downtown bathrooms for $38,500. How do we even consider it under where we're at?
Well, I give every of the department heads, I think you guys are fantastic and you want what is best for the town. I realize that. But I feel that I was elected to do what was best for the taxpayers of the town. And that's where I have to look. You have the gentleman from EMS who talks about putting in a deputy to save on overtime. I hope to hell we do not have that much overtime that would make up for his salary. And you're talking his hourly rate and his insurance. Parks and Rec, I don't want to pick on just one person, but you want to make a full-time director. And I understand. If you came to me and said, we have all these programs and they're gung-ho and we've got all the people that are going to do it, that's different. We're not there yet. And I just say we need to really look at this budget, and this budget needs to be cut to the bare bone. John and I had met before he came on board, and he asked me what I envisioned for the budget, and I told him point blank my envision. 2% across the board increases and anything increase in health, and that's all I was willing to accept. And I will stand by that. That's all I will accept.
The budget
Yes.
is 2.64. The budget is overall 2.64% higher. That's not the issue.
That's
it's the
not what she
revenues.
meant to taxpayers.
But we have to get it done. We don't have the revenue to pay for these
Right.
things. That's the issue.
So Julie, are you willing to, I didn't understand, you mean you could accept a 2% increase to taxpayers, or you want it to be 0?
I want it to be 0. I'm willing to say, okay, we have increases from last year because of our salary increases. I can accept that. Not necessarily 2%, it's not gonna make it 2%. And any increase in the insurance. Those are things that we can't control. We can't control county tax. Those things I can accept. Anything more, I think we're doing a disservice for the taxpayers. We're gonna have more and more people who can't afford to pay their taxes. And we're gonna be right back where we are a month ago, going through everybody and, trying to work with people to get them to pay their taxes. Yes.
I agree with pretty much everything you're saying, but I do want to just point out that where we were a month ago, I believe is the result of 10 years of not doing that work. So I don't think that it's going to, that was a cumulative problem, and it was many years in the making because people were allowed to not pay their taxes. And I mean, I have lots of bills, and you know who gets paid last? The one that doesn't come after me. That's how, that's how it is. So I get it. I understand why if you were struggling and juggling, you're going to pay this thing that doesn't come after you for the money. So I don't think we're going to be there again because we have Bernice and we're on it with the taxes.
I've just said my piece. Yes, Bob?
I'll chime in with Judy. I followed some of the math there, but, I certainly would support those kind of cuts. But, like Ben suggested, the bathrooms is 30-something thousand. I saw 3 full-time people in this budget. I mean, the benefit package alone there is probably over 70,000. And I don't see where overtime is associated with that. Part-time people should not be getting overtime.
No, they should
That's not what part-time means. And so, taking two part-time people and blending them together to make one full-time person just costs you the benefit package right there. Plus, then they would be eligible for overtime.
Correct.
So can I ask if we actually took the summary pages on the front and went down each department and saw the actual change, which is the last column there, which includes if we were to put the workers' comp back into each department, which departments we're talking, because I understand if there's a 0% change right now, that they're good. Is that a clear consensus or not?
Well, I think you cut where you can cut.
Well, I mean, I feel that we've done that a lot, so that's why I'm asking for more direction. John, am I outstepping?
No, I understand. I mean, we've made certain assumptions and shown the board what it would cost to operate at optimum level. Now, I understand the issue of the cost. I can get any amount out of anything. But again, I want to get to the point where you literally are digging a hole, a financial hole. There's certain services that people expect, whether they're keen on paying the real cost of it, and that's an educational matter, and a lot of people still don't. Sometimes some people don't make the connection between spending and their taxes, and I would accept that. But there are certain departments that haven't gone up very much. Now, if the board directs me to pick a number, I'll make it work, and I'll be a lot of unhappy people. But again, you have to balance. I'm not picking any department. I won't name any department, but you're balancing certain services, quality of staff, public safety, maintenance of equipment, buildings, and so on and so forth. If you let that go along too long, you're going to be looking at exactly the same thing in a year or two. So, what I'd ask, not to single out any particular department, but if there is anything that's easier to reduce, and any guidance the board might say, like the benefits, avoiding the increase in benefits, managing benefits, so on and so forth, I can work with that. And then the other thing, before we finish, I'd like some sort of feedback on what things aren't important, what things maybe, what things no way on this, so we can put together the full package.
On the capital?
On the capital.
Well, that depends on if you take the 500,000.
Well, no, regardless, just kind of, that's a wish list. Don't want it this year, next year, whatever.
What number were you using, like the 2%?
Well, I originally had the 12,156,000, but we have a different number.
That's 121 per.
Yeah.
One per percent.
Okay, but.
Because I didn't have the new number when I was doing this.
All right, but the 12 million.
I had 12,156,164.
Okay, but half of that is schools.
No.
Yes?
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Schools there and the county is there for.
Judy, what page?
We're looking at the very first page,
Oh, okay.
this one here.
Okay, so if you pull out 6.6 million, you're down to.
So my numbers would be wrong.
You gotta pull up the county tax, the overlay, the school, and the TIF, the ones that are in gray, those would all have to come out.
I would ask, what do we have to cut out of the selectmen's budgets to hold things zero? How much money would we need?
$500,000, like I said, if we had $5,000 more revenue, it's still an increase of 1.64%.
So out of this proposed budget, if we cut approximately 500,000, we would hold it zero.
Right, and it's up 525 over last year, so there isn't even, so
Okay,
you're asking to
it's
bring
up.
it back to less than what last year's was. 312, 525.
That's what it's up.
That's what it's up, dollars wise.
All right, then I guess I would ask to cut 312,000 out of it, and then we would be flat,
But
right?
that's, no.
No,
No.
because our revenues are less, because we took money out of reserves to use for revenue. And the EMS is down, and some of the other revenues are down. Some are up, and I mean, we're making a guess of what revenue sharing is based on last year. We haven't got firm numbers on that either.
So what would we have to reduce out of our budget without taking that 500,000 or 450,000 out of the reserve?
You still gotta reduce it by $450,000 or $500,000 to have either a flat or between a 1% and a 2%.
That would be close to 10% cut.
It's still proportionate to what you have with your other revenues.
So,
Well, you can't count on the revenue pictures, we found that out over the years.
I know, but you still have to use those as a guesstimate of what is going to be your amount that hits your taxpayers.
Yeah, and I'm saying that we've been overestimating the last few years.
And I've done the best that I have with what information I have to come up with the numbers that.
I'm not criticizing you for
I'm not, but I'm just saying that the numbers that I have say that it's going to be a 7.64, I think it is, percent increase in the taxpayers. Again, that's a guess, because I don't know if Ellery's gonna pick up any more. I mean, he's gonna pick up some new construction out there. How much that's going to help, I don't know either.
Yeah, I see.
Question, could I ask Denise a
Okay.
question, Cliff? I know the rec budget, the revenue is down, I know the EMS revenue is down. The rest of them are pretty insignificant, aren't they?
As far as decreases or increases, yes.
Yeah, okay. And I'm not really talking about wastewater because.
That's a whole separate.
It is, yeah. leave that
Right.
alone. So I don't think the revenue picture is that hard to grasp. You know, if some of these other accounts, you know, a little short or a little over, it's pretty insignificant.
I mean, if you look on page 40 of the handout that I gave you today, these are the revenues that we're looking at.
That would be fine.
It was in the handout that I gave you today. It's probably looking at, it. If you want to get the last one here, you'll have to share with me. So you'll see that the airport, most of those are pretty, his has gone up 9.5%. On page 40 for the airport, his revenues have gone up 9.5%.
Ask a question about that.
That's,
Do we collect a lot of property taxes from people who own hangars?
we have hangar rentals that are also in there, yeah, if you look at that. you
But
see
is
that.
there another place where there's income from the airport? Like, do people pay property taxes if they own a hangar there? Or is there any other income?
They pay property taxes, yes, but that wouldn't show here.
No, but that would justify, like, we subsidize the airport by 37,000, but not really if we know how much we collect in property taxes.
Right, if you added that in,
Do you have any idea how much that
I
is?
don't,
Is it around 40 grand or much more?
I wouldn't even dare guess, Kim, because I have not really looked at that.
Because I always wondered why a town this size subsidizes an airport. You know, there's like a handful of people who own airplanes, and they're really rich people because they own airplanes, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe they're not that rich, they just have these airplanes, but why are we subsidizing airplanes at the airport? You know what I mean? And I know they have like hundreds of flights that come in and out every day, but I think it's like it's a same bunch of guys.
Usually airports make money on fuel sales.
But our airport doesn't. It makes some money, but it doesn't, it's still, the difference between what we're paying in taxes for the airport and what the airport brings in, not paying property taxes, is almost $40,000. I just always wondered, like, why do we subsidize, like, I can see why we subsidize sewer in a way, because we gotta have that, but I don't necessarily, and I can see why we subsidize Parks and Rec, because that's really important. That's why people wanna live here. If everybody moved out of here, then we'd have a bigger problem. But an airport, like, that's not benefiting that many folks.
Can I try to answer, Galen?
Please do.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, and my first comment would be those hangars, people don't pay property tax whether there's an airport there or not. either that or they're gonna have to take them down. But over the years, we have buried ourselves in debt by accepting these grants from the FAA, and every time one of those FAA people has come in here, I've always asked about whether or not these grants roll on, when do they fall off the table, and I've never gotten a straight answer. How much did it cost us to close the airport? Nobody knows. And you can't even seem to get that from the FAA. I think it probably is significant, because in accepting these grants, it obligates us to keep it open. Another little tidbit, that really wasn't the Wiscasset Airport, that was the Lincoln County Airport, but everybody else backed out and stuck us with it. But I don't
It
think...
just seems like when we're struggling, you know, and then we have this airport over there, it's like, an airport, like what's Wiscasset mean? There's no airport. So we have to have it?
Well, no,
Like
we don't have to have
government
it, we just
has
can't figure out what it would cost to close it. Because the FAA does not seem to have a clear answer. And I have actually been told that these FAA grants expire after a certain number of years, but I've also been told that they don't. Now, I thought when we accepted all this heavy equipment down there, the snow blower, the rubber tired loader, and a bunch of buckets for it, that we paid only a small percent of, that after a certain number of years, that would then belong to the town and we could sell it. And I've now been told maybe no. But I was told that we couldn't use that on the roads, it'd have to set down there and rot. That because it was given to the town, well, the grant was given to the town by the FAA, we can't use that. So then they built a mega building to put it in.
I've been in there, it's impressive.
God, I wish I could live in there.
It's.
We'll charge rent.
But I was trying to answer your question. It's more complicated than it appears.
Well, we should put it on a list of, like, you know, Bernice has cleaned up all these things. We should put airport on a list of things to clean up, because now what are we doing? We're gonna cut down those people's trees so we can get another grant? And then how long are we gonna be beholden to them for that grant?
We won't know, but yes.
But that, you know, and that's a business that is actually bringing people to our town and paying taxes. They're good for us. They don't cost us anything. They bring money to town. We're doing this for the FAA?
No. There was many arguments years ago that the airport would benefit the town and help us grow and attract business and do all kinds of things.
I guess
Personally, I would rather have an airport than bathrooms on the waterfront. If we're talking about economies and what's good for the town.
I think a lot of the
Well, I know you
issues
know.
that we have been told in years past, that if we were to close the airport for any reason, that there is money that the town of Wiscasset has to pay back.
It would be good to
And I heard it was millions. I didn't hear.
Well, yeah, we've been told that, but we've never been given an accurate breakdown so you could see when these grants are falling off the edge of the table. I mean, if you could actually see that schedule, you would think, well, geez, do we want to spend $3 million or accept a $3 million grant now because we don't know how long we'll be responsible for it, but we don't really get the answer. So next thing you know, afterwards we got that grant, and now I guess maybe we locked in for another 10, 20 years, whatever.
I know once I was like, I'll come down and read all the grant agreements, and I have not had time, but we need to do that and create a schedule, because it's not mystifying. These are legal documents. We just have to sit down. I used to be a federal grants accountant. You have to sit and read, you know.
Well, we had this discussion, I remember when
We
you were
did,
first
we
elected,
did.
and remember I said good luck with that?
Yeah.
Because you was gonna look into that, and.
I know. As soon as I get off the boosters, I'm in there.
And no fault of yours. I'm not sure anyone will ever tell you.
Okay,
They have
Bernice,
to.
where else are we?
No, fine. So if you look down, animal control, we did budget a little bit there, that's never been budgeted before. Code enforcement, we budgeted the same amount. EMS is down $87,000. Parks and Rec is down $10,000 in estimated revenues that we're using to offset the budget. Police department, we left the same. Seniors meals did go up 20% based on what they thought they were going to be bringing in. Shellfish conservation licenses, we left the same. Transfer stations going up by 4.34%. Waterfront, we left the same. State revenues, we left the same. And then the tax, we did up excise tax by 3.7%, and that's where you see the tax commitment of 7.33% increase. And then you go down, you'll see that we did up overall charges for services by 31 tenths of a percent. And then the rest of them have all gone down. So if you take the $87,000 that we are going to receive estimated less of EMS, $10,000 for Parks and Rec, the $57,723 that we used from fund balance, and the $201,846 that we transferred in from capital, that adds up to $356,569 less in revenue right there. Less in revenue that we're using in this budget this year. 356,569.
And what you added, Parks?
I added the 87,000 from EMS less, the $10,000 in Parks and Rec less, and then down at the bottom of page 42, you'll see that under 193.98, we had the 201,846 that we transferred in out of the $1 million that we brought in, and then we did use 57,723 in fund balance.
356 what again?
356,569.
So you took transfer from capital and used the fund balance and added those together?
Correct, those four numbers.
All right.
Add up to the 356,569.
So loss of revenue is 97,000, and the other stuff is what we took from our investments.
Correct. And the fund balance. We took 57,723 from the fund balance. So starting out, we've got that much less revenue coming in to help offset this budget, which is why, with the increase of the 312,000, whatever I said the increase was, 312,525 in the overall budget, plus the 356,569 less in revenue, is why the increase in taxes of the 7.33%. So it's not just the increase in budget, it's the decrease in revenues to add up to the over $600,000.
Yes, Kim. I love the idea of a 0% increase in the taxes, but if the county tax is going up 2%, I don't know if I feel good about cutting other things to make up for the county tax. Just wanted to throw that out there.
That's an estimate at this point. We don't have a firm number of what the county tax is going to go up.
But it's definitely going up.
I imagine. Because they're negotiating contracts too, as you said, right?
Their own budget went up 2.54, and that's before the contracts. Now, that's the budget, and the contracts will have to be settled, and then when it comes to tax commitment, how much they take from reserves before they send out tax bills.
So there are things that we have no control over and that are going up, right? Like 1 to 2% salaries and benefits and county tax. And if people want to have those things, but not, I don't know how you get to have those things and then not pay for them. Like if you cut, I guess eliminate, what? Do you know what I mean? Like if things are going up, it's kind of artificial to say, well, we're going to cut this other stuff, your taxes are going to be flat. They're not really flat. We're eliminating a person, or, you know, it's not going to be a half-time employee or even a bathroom on the pier. It's like $500,000 worth of stuff to account for, you know, all of these increases that occur every year. And they'll occur again next year and the year after. And so I don't know what the solution is, but it's not going to go away. Like they're going to need to go up again next year because stuff costs more every year. I don't know why you're in this position as we are.
Because we don't have the revenue. We're not getting the revenue in here that we should have, or we would like to have.
It's a combination though. I mean, it's a combination of the two departments that the revenue is down, yes. But it's because we take fund balance every year to help offset it. We put a Band-Aid on it every year by taking the fund balance,
And Bob,
as you had said before.
He brings that up every year.
Yeah. But let me just go back to something I said earlier, that shellfish. Now, they make almost half of that amount. You've only got to either double the license fee or double the number of licenses or some combination of both, and it doesn't cost the town anything anymore. And then you're putting that cost on the people that actually get the benefit from it. It's a small, small thing, but if you use that philosophy, then you start making a little bit of headway. You know,
Just a minute, yeah.
Following on what Bob is saying, you've already had some conversations about the revenue, or excuse me, the assets that the town has that you aren't fully utilizing. You're getting ready soon to talk about pier fees. That's a valuable asset. You shouldn't have to be spending anything to maintain that pier because you can make revenue from that pier. And it follows through with all sorts of other assets that the town has.
I agree. I was gonna say, does the revenue show a 30% increase in sewer fees yet?
That's got nothing to do with the general fund that we're looking
That has
at.
nothing to do with this.
So that can't be part of that?
No, because that only deals with the ratepayers. But you figure if you're gonna go a 30% increase on the water, on the sewer, and you're gonna increase their a person in town taxes 7%, that's a big chunk of change that you're inflicting on these people. Yeah.
Which brings you to the question of a town of this size, exactly what services do we really need? And I think the citizens of this town at some point are going to have to, if not, if this board isn't willing to make those decisions, at some point the citizens and the voters will make that decision.
Well, they do every year. I mean, that it gets, or actually they don't, because we take money from fund balance and investment, and so they don't really realize.
We lower the taxes. The last time we did it, what was, well, 14%. And again, we took money out of that. Originally, it was 22%. And we ended up taking money out and got it down to 14. Am I correct, Ben?
Yes.
Then the next year, there was another increase. We've been increasing every single year. And, you know, I just think it's very hard on the people. I think we really have to, I'm sorry, bite a bullet. That's what we're gonna have to do.
Plus, last year, didn't everyone's water bill go up like 35%?
No, we have not raised, I don't know about the water.
No, the water.
The water's
Yeah. Is it 12%?
But we don't control that.
I know we don't, but our people pay that bill.
Right. So you figure increase in water, increase in sewer, and increase in taxes. Well, where do we stop?
And let's remember when the sewer bill goes up 30%, the town itself is the biggest user of the sewers.
That's
So
correct.
we get it kind of twice.
Well, we're paying for it anyway out of fund balance.
We only took 50,000 of the fund balance last year. We took 200,000 out of reserves, but we only took 50.
No, I mean, we're making up the shortfall out of the fund balance. Denise told us that repeatedly, to balance what.
Well, through revenues that are down.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But by taking this money out of fund balance, that leaves us short all year long. We don't have any reserve in case we need money. We have no money in our checkbook because we've spent it.
It brings our cash flow to a.
And then we have to use the TAN. So we're just taking like you said, taking a Band-Aid, putting a Band-Aid over the whole situation.
The TAN doesn't bother me, you know, we don't spend all that much money to use a TAN. We
No.
didn't last year. I don't encourage it, but when we spent $1,000 on it last year?
I don't know. And we haven't gone into the contingency yet this year, thank goodness, knock on wood. But we need to give the town manager some type of direction of where we want him to go, or what we want to do.
Comprehensive plan, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I like your idea of kicking it back at John, sorry, and asking him to reduce it, like well, it's the Band-Aid again, I was gonna say come back with 2% and then we could take some of our capital improvement money, but.
Well, John did some figuring, and
I can show you my math. I took the 12.14 total, which is under where she took away the school, the county, and the other gray items, it'd be a total of 6.9, left with 5.226 million. 1% of that is 52,000. So if not,
2% would be 100.
It'd be 100. And that's not even gonna help us.
No, no, but just the item that Ben and I mentioned is $100,000.
Which is that?
I'm sorry?
What's the $100,000?
I said, well, Ben mentioned the bathrooms, and I said the benefits for the additional full-time people. This total, there's probably over 100,000 right there, without
Yes.
digging any deeper.
Yes, pretty.
The $35,000 for the main Yankee legal, the bathrooms, and the comprehensive plan add up to $93,500.
And then add in the benefits from those people. How much more?
It's hard to figure, but I know it's going to be over 7,000.
There's only been 2 full-time people added that I'm aware of.
well, proposed also is EMS.
That's what I'm thinking of, is
Part-time
the EMS and the rec department are the only 2 people that I know of that we've added benefits for.
Is
it police who's reporting? Call center person?
She already was getting benefits.
But you're
At a reduced rate, but yes.
increasing the police secretary also.
Right, but she was already getting part-time benefits, so, I mean, that didn't increase it, yeah, it increased it probably like $12,000, but not. So I think those are the only 2 full-time positions that have been added, and then 1 part-time's been increased to full-time, but we were already paying
I'd
part-time.
like to see maybe a 3% cut at this point. That would be 150,000. That's just my thinking.
But if John's willing to make a stab at it, I support that.
Oh, yeah, I can.
And do we have any other buildings to sell?
We sold the school. One
can't.
school out of 3.
No, but there's the Scout Hall and.
Well, we can't, in my viewpoint, we can't determine that budget on selling that school at this point.
Wouldn't happen.
I mean, if it came down to the fact that, you know, push comes to shove, that we have to raise the taxes between 1% and 2%, I probably could live with that. But I can't live with those high numbers. I just can't. And I really hate taking that money out of the investment. I hate using the fund balance. Because I think we're setting ourselves up for a fall, a big one.
All right, let's start by taking the bathrooms out. Let's get serious if we're gonna cut.
That's why I'm saying, give it back to John. Let him make the cuts. I don't want to sit here and say, let's take out the bathrooms, let's take out this. Let him do it. Tell him we want 3% and go from there.
So 3% for.
Well, okay, but I would cut the bathrooms out and then do the 3%.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure through the conversation, we can have you go and take the bathrooms out.
Remember, we have to put back on.
I said I would take the bathrooms out and then cut 3%.
Sarcastic.
No, I'm being serious, that's what I would do.
I know.
So you don't want the $20,000 to be part, or the $38,500 to be part of the 3%?
Right, above and beyond that. I mean, if we're that hard up for money, which I believe we are, why would we even consider that at this point?
Consider what?
The bathrooms.
We'll just
I
write a
agree.
grant
I
or
agree.
something for composting.
Well, I'm just saying, take the bathrooms out now and we still will cut 3% above and beyond that.
That's fine.
Well, if we can get a consensus,
I'm good with that.
that's
good
3
with
right
that.
there.
I'm good with
I
that.
think you can do it, it can be done.
Oh, yeah,
I think John can do it, he can probably do it.
Well, meaning that 3%, take the bathrooms out and then cut 3%.
Yeah, and take that, which is approximately 150,000 plus bathrooms. Now, just remember, you're gonna have to add in the porta potties. That's item 1.
Well, maybe we can write a grant and get something different that's not gross and makes our town look like a place to be proud of.
But you're the closest thing to a grant expert we have.
I've
I
written
only
grants.
tried one and it took an hour and I said, forget it.
I have like almost 100% success rate.
You do?
I do.
We should talk to you sometime.
So is that the consensus of the board, that we're gonna take out the bathrooms and then another 3% on top of that?
It's a good start.
Okay. You do that in your sleep?
Well, actually, yeah.
Okay.
I got 150,000 budget over the county, after everybody gone through the budget process, I didn't like the way the numbers were shaping.
Be careful, we might ask him to pay another 150.
I won't say it's easy, I'm not, all my friends out there may not be friends by the time.
Yes, Judy?
Who's the rep on the county budget?
For here, Hannah Reserve.
You mean the county commissioner or
No,
county
the
here?
budget, isn't it usually a board member?
I think I'm in.
You
Yes, it just remember.
So,
Yes.
And you're doing a good
Yeah,
job.
I know, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to discuss?
Are we gonna wait on all those figures before we attack the capital?
Yes, that's where I'd like to go. Because we can deal with that on Monday. Let him do his work with his magic, with his figures. That's just, I don't want to run the board, I'm just saying, I'm suggesting. Let him run his numbers and bring them back to us on Monday. And then we can discuss capital, see where we go from there.
I was gonna ask if anybody from the budget committee wanted to chime in on what we're doing, or what the board has suggested John do. I'm assuming you'd be in favor of it, but I didn't hear anybody say anything, so I just thought I would ask.
Oh, there was a request, not the best time to introduce it.
I was just gonna bring it up, so go ahead.
The
Bit like a
part-time
skunk at
planner.
a lawn party.
I was trying to pick a good time to bring it up.
Present one.
No time like the present. This was a proposal with the support of Historic Preservation and the Planning Commission to get some part-time hourly help from the county planning. And if you recollect, Bill at one point was hoping to get a full-time position, and he had a petition going, which he thoughtfully withdrew, and this is what he came up with the support of the county planning office, the historical preservation people, and the planning board.
Correct.
So the numbers will be additional numbers. They're not bad compared to what the full-time planner would cost, because Tom did a full-time planner once.
If you look at the back 2 pages, you'll see emails from the chairman of the planning commission and the home board rather, and John on the historic preservation committee, showing how they're having a lot of trouble doing their work. This has been going on. It's part of why Ray stepped down after many years too. With John's permission, I sat down with Mary Ellen Barnes and Megan
McLaughlin.
And I had a sample of her work. But they can offer, and this is a proposal, it's not been negotiated or anything, just a proposal, that they can give us 10 hours a week to take care of, help the 2 boards. Megan could use a desk here once a week for people to come in and take in the applications, get them the right forms and everything, so when they go to the board, they've got everything in proper order. They charge an hourly fee, say maximum of 10 hours a week, for 50 weeks, and I'm saying 50, not 52, because someone has to have a vacation. They have no benefits or anything, which we would, it's a straight hourly wage. It'd be $28,700 if you work 10 hours every week for 50 weeks.
How much again?
$28,700, and I believe that $9,000 out of the TIF fund has been earmarked to pay for a planner.
Yeah, there is some figure in there.
Yeah.
9,000?
9,000.
What's it down to?
This,
Nine.
I was a planner myself, I've been a plan commission, and these people are invaluable, save you a lot of trouble. I can find it here. I think this is what Megan used for her when she applied for a job or something, but you can see she's given parts of her work there. She's excellent detail and all that. as good as the plans that I had from much larger.
So we're talking about 20,000.
You're talking 28,700.
But taking out the tip money that
Oh,
is
correct.
already earmarked for.
That's correct.
And the other thing is, we're talking 10 hours a week for 50 hours, so if that was something the board wished to pursue, it doesn't have to be 10 hours. It'd be nice if
Just
it
not
was
do
10
that.
hours.
Bill made it sound like it's, that 10 hours is people come in and they need to know what forms and all
No.
that. But, so would this 10 hours include going to meetings, helping?
If you read that, they rather not go to meetings, that they should prepare it ahead of time for the meetings. It'd be part intake, she'd have to have some hours here, could be half a day or something like that, 1 day a week or 1 day every 2 weeks. A lot of it's gonna be writing this stuff up. When I was chairman, I used to meet 4 o'clock in the afternoon before the meeting, and we'd go over all of the ins and outs of it, and why we're doing a variation. The code called for 24 parking spaces, but the guy's selling pianos, so he's not gonna have a crowd there, so we could get down to 8 spaces. But you need a variation for it, but she would have all that information. People wouldn't have to go back 4 and 5 times as they're doing now. I would imagine in the beginning, she'd have a lot of work to do to catch up, but once you get going, it's not that big a deal. You don't have that much going on. But it's, the boards really do need it. I can't imagine running a board and not having that help.
I was gonna say, we just worked to get 38,000 out from the bathrooms, but I would be willing to put this in. I think that it is needed. One of my big hesitations, and some people have heard it, is that we have new management and, you know, we're gonna be, who knows, doing what in the future. And I'm not sure, if we had a full-time planner, I would wonder what the manager's gonna do. I think there's a blend there that we haven't gotten to yet. But this might be a good start. Let's get
Ray said this before he left. He said, we need a part-time planner, but we need a planner. It's too complicated out there. Someone said to me when I had the petition, oh, when I was young, we used to just go and do that. I said, yeah, but you get arrested now.
I think this is good work.
You want it as a separate article?
Well, yes, it would have to be separate out.
That could actually go under contractual services.
They don't want to bury it.
No, it won't be buried, it'll be out there for a little.
Okay.
I think it'll fly. I mean, that's
I think
under
this is a reasonable
$10,000
approach
for a
at the
year's
moment,
worth of.
where we are.
All you gotta do, John, is just cut out 20 somewhere else.
That's right.
Well, there's a reason I can't come out of it. I mean, I need to study up on the TIF, I guess, but there's money in the TIF.
That's for
So
development.
the figure's not.
Isn't that for economic
Well, that's
development?
what is a planner for?
Economic development.
Okay.
Should, maybe the TIF can pay for the whole thing?
Well, that's what I'll have to research and find out. Or John will have to research and find out.
Last year, we took about 9,000 from the TIF.
You want another?
There is supposedly 9,000 dedicated to this. And I don't know how your TIF was written. The TIF could have a narrow definition of what the money can be used for.
And we'll have to look at that to see if that is a possibility.
But if we could use that money, that would be better than increasing the budget 20-some thousand, whether 28,000.
John and I will look into that to find out what it can be used for.
Yeah, generally, the TIF is used for improvements within the TIF district. We used to even have in downtown TIF district, we had money for facade improvements too. Make the town look a little newer, a little fresher.
Want to come look at the TIF documents and tell us what we can do with it?
Take a look at it. If you're doing this, but sure.
Okay, anything else?
And we have to attend, so Monday is the
Monday
first.
5. And we have Monday 5 for budget and Tuesday night selectmen at 6 and Wednesday night at 5 for budget.
Can you make the Wednesday one? Good.
And we only do parent teacher conferences twice a year. We've done that. So thank you.
So that means we're gonna be done on the 3rd?
I hope so.
We usually are never done till the deadline.
Well, you got,
What is the deadline?
where's my calendar? At the very latest, the warrant should be completed by April 9th. As in,
April 9th?
I'll
Yeah, okay.
because drop dead, all the documentation has to be proofed and whatever in by the end, by the 12th.
And is that for everybody? Like, would that be the same thing for the school department as well?
No, school department, first off, it's a little weird, when it comes to, no, I didn't mean that. School department, when it comes to the voting, and the polls and so on, same day as the rest of the municipality, but they have an extended, they have more time, and the other thing is, when it comes to the warrant, often there's no number for the school budget, it's will you, I think, will you approve the number that was approved at the.
Because they have a two-step process,
Something
right?
like
They
that.
were meeting.
I'm not explaining it properly, but I do know on the warrant it doesn't have a specific number because of our deadlines. So on.
So we would have to approve it for the 3rd?
I would like to.
Well, the worst case scenario, if we don't by the 3rd, we could always do it the 8th.
Yeah.
Because we have to vote on it too.
To vote, as you know, to vote for every single.
Yes.
And then budget committee is one of the ones who do this. So, how do you want to do that? For a voting quorum, could be 5. And if you want to look at, I copied out the protocol for the budget committee, if you'd like a copy of that.
So we have to vote before that.
We should have.
Correct?
Yes, we get all.
For a quorum, you're supposed to.
Sure.
We only had 4 every meeting.
Who's?
Well, I thought it's quorum if we have full set of members. We don't have a full set of,
But you still
just
have
as-
to.
How many people do you have in your committee?
there's 8 on the
Supposed to be
committee.
9.
Okay, so you need.
If we have 10.
It says 5 because you're expected to.
So there's a vacancy?
Okay.
Of 9, so it's 5 is a
I'll give you, I'll give you.
So,
You got it?
so if we do this the 3rd, we go the 3rd and vote. That gives them enough time from the 3rd on to do their thing, the budget committee.
Because our regular meeting is what, 14th this month? Or the second Wednesday, so it'll be the 9th. Oh, okay.
You'd have to do it before then, because if we need to have it in before the 9th.
The 9th gives us a chance to make sure the warrant is proofed, as opposed to just dropping everything there and saying submitting it next day. You know when you're proofing, you have to have 2 people working their way down. This is generally a long warrant. So, one way, yes.
Can we have a joint meeting? The board votes on the article, planning board votes next.
I think
Then
that,
go to the second article, back and forth, get it all done in one meeting.
I think that would make sense.
We've never done it that way, but I don't see
I think the budget committee should meet as a budget committee. No,
Okay.
no.
Well, I'd like to be able to try and get our voting done next Wednesday, if all possible. See the new numbers come out on Monday, see where we're at, and then do our voting on Wednesday. And that gives you guys a chance to meet and do your voting.
Okay. So you would need to have our vote completed before the following Wednesday, the 9th?
Pardon?
You would need to have our vote in before the following Wednesday? on the
That's
9th?
correct.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
We can email the guy to see what works. Because we can get more.
It's going to fall on Monday. It's
Yeah.
Monday the
do it on the
8th,
8th.
right? Yeah, we'd have to have it by the 9th.
Yeah, the 9th is
You
for
have
the
to meet on
selectmen,
the 8th, which is the Monday.
and that's a Tuesday. The first is a Monday. So Tuesday the 2nd.
Yeah.
And Monday is the 8th, it's the following Monday.
Right. So if we approve everything on the 3rd and do our voting, that gives them the 4th, the 5th, and not 8th, 3 days, somewhere in there to get yours votes and to the town manager by the dial. Correct?
Yes.
Unless you want to work Saturday or Sunday.
No, probably not.
Okay.
Check in, we can figure out one of those days. Is there any days that don't work for you? Is there, should we figure this out afterwards?
Yeah, Thursday doesn't work, before does not work for me.
Just make sure that the third is announced as a selectmen's meeting so that we can vote.
Yes.
And not a workshop.
Yes.
The third.
The third.
By Monday? I hear this.
You better,
Yeah.
papers going bed.
All set? Okay. So it'll be, yes, and I'll email Shay as
I
well.
mean, I can put it online, but the paper's already gone to bed, so having a legal meeting is kind of difficult.
Yeah, well, the press has now been notified, but we'll,
And we'll put it up on the
we'll put it
board.
everywhere, so we can include.
We're having a selectmen's meeting on the 2nd and the 3rd.
For that matter, when we met on the second, we could announce for a meeting on the third.
Very true.
Sure. Okay, yes, Judy?
Are you done?
Yes.
Well, it's not budget. It's, I don't know if everyone has heard that Wiscasset has lost a piece of history yesterday. Roy Farmer passed away.
Oh, no.
Yesterday morning, I think, was it? I think so.
Oh, my God.
I think we all need to pause and reflect on his life and how much he contributed to this town.
Indeed.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
I'm deeply sorry.
Yesterday morning. Somebody sent me a note.
Oh, my goodness. That just took the sails right there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Susan.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. No,
Thank you for telling
he
me.
was certainly, in our lifetimes, one of the giants. Very much so.
He was good at this time.
He was a gentleman.
Yes,
He was a
was,
gentleman.
Yes, it was. We don't have many of those anymore, do we?
Blackie Jewel.
Okay, so
Graduate class of 1944.
can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we're out of here.
Then we turn off this green light.
Do you know when his funeral is?
You didn't know that.
The way you preface that, I was wondering if that issue gonna